I got a number for you. The number is 117. That is the number of organizations that represent the agriculture, manufacturing, retail, food service, and trucking sectors of the American supply chain. These organizations together sent a letter to transportation leaders in Congress, and my first question is, they're transportation leaders in Congress? But I digress. Urging passage of the Drive Safe Act legislation, and this is designed to help remedy the growing truck driver shortage. Now, if you've followed the show, you know, because we've talked about it number of times. So if you haven't, let me just give you the numbers, and then I will work backwards. I'm going to give you the numbers they quoted because it's still mind-boggling when they're talking about it and why this matters. First of all, did you know there was a shortage of truck drivers in this country? Bet you didn't. Okay, so here's the number. I had it. I got to find it because it was ridiculous.
I'll pry with you a question before you get there.
Okay, try me.
Is it due to there are many individuals maybe with the training and skills needed, but due to low pay and less than desirable working conditions, many are leaving the industry?
Well,
because they said, I've been reading more about this, and they've been said there have been shortages since the 80s and 90s. They've always said there's shortages of drivers.
But it's gotten more acute in recent years.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, I think. Because the numbers they actually quoted, here it is. They said right now, according to a recent estimate, the trucking industry needs an additional 60,800 truck drivers immediately, right now. And they expect that deficit to grow to more than 160,000 by 2028. So let's talk about this. The average truck driver, well, first of all, driving what they call a commercial truck, there's roughly 6.6 million drivers. But they're not talking about all 6.6. They're talking about the 300 to 500,000 drivers that are classified as what we call over-the-road or big rig truck drivers. That part of the industry is a problem. And see, that's where you got to be careful. How are they defining the trucking industry? Mm-hmm. You know, the broader trucking industry, which is commercial truck, which would include everything from a cement mixer to last mile delivery to medium duty trucks for a whole variety of purposes, are all part of that. But the thing that they keep talking about, and what you just alluded to, is that 300 to 500,000 men and women behind the wheel driving the big rigs across the country in long haul over the road trucking. That is a problem right there. There are loads that can't be delivered. Case in point, happened this week. As many of you know, I have a side gig for a major grocery store chain here in our local market. We couldn't get our produce for this big volume store. And by the way, the store that I work at is part of a 264 store chain. And we work in the largest store with the highest volume in 8 states.
Yeah, so this isn't a small crumb place. You know?
No. And here's what happened. The driver hit his state-mandated hours of operation. Because he doesn't go outside of the state, it's state regulated. If you cross state lines, it's federal regulated. He hit his state hours, could not move. So the produce didn't get to the store. It was 6 hours late. In the end, they had to find another driver to take the load. Now, start multiplying that. Lost sales for the store, critical problem relative to the freshness of the produce. I mean, you start multiplying all of this, and there are other unintended consequences, and that's what they're talking about. So let me come full circle and talk about the legislation, and this is what it boils down to. Basically, they want to make it legal for a driver who's 18 but younger than 21 to drive across state lines, commercial license. Now, they put what I consider incredibly onerous requirements in terms of the number of hours of additional training, and they call it an apprenticeship with an experienced truck driver. So no, they're not just going to lower the age and turn the kids loose. Not even close. Here it is. In order to qualify, candidates must complete at least 400 hours of additional training. That's on top of getting your CDL, which is short for commercial driver's license, far beyond what is required of any other CDL holder in the nation. Secondly, all qualified drivers participating in the apprenticeship program, because that's what it is, would be accompanied by an experienced driver in the cab and would only be allowed to drive trucks outfitted with the latest safety technology, including active braking collision mitigation systems, forward-facing dash cams, speed limiters set at 65 miles an hour or lower, and automatic or automatic manual transmissions, which means even if these kids could drive, even if they change the laws, that would limit them to only the biggest fleets in the country, which means more than likely interstate travel.
So you're feeling okay with it?
No.
Oh.
I mean, I understand them wanting to be safe. And in fact, the Owner Operators Association had some concerns. They're convinced that younger people have more collisions, more accidents, are not mature enough for such a responsibility. I contend that the truth is somewhere in the middle. They need more training, granted, but I don't think it's as dire as they say it is, but it's not a slam dunk even with all this training. I think it's in the middle somewhere. But the truth is loads aren't being picked up, and just had a case that I personally experienced this week as a result of a driver shortage.
All right, we actually had a very relevant question on our YouTube just recently when with our autonomous, the trucking industry.
Yeah.
A guy said he was afraid to go to CDL school to take his driving test and invest a lot of money in school just to come out of school if there's not going to be enough jobs because of self-driving trucks. Said he'd love to be a truck driver, and it's, but he's just not really sure, what to do, like when they will switch over that and if it'll threaten the industry. And so basically, for people that are considering that job right now.
Well, here's the thing. The pandemic kind of jammed up the pipeline for people who were going to get their CDL and become truck drivers. So it's worsened the shortage for the short term. This is not anything that's going to happen and put thousands,
overnight,
hundreds of thousands of truckers out of work in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
Will autonomy happen? You betcha. And it's going to be particular. I think you see last mile, first mile situations. I think you're going to see, as the states and hopefully the federal government regulate the thing, a gradual rollout, because they're just not going to throw it up into the winds because there are insurance concerns, liability concerns. They want to make sure that the product actually works in pretty much every single situation they can think of, including some harebrained ones they haven't. And there's bound to be teething pains.
Yeah.
I think you're looking at maybe 10, 15, 20 years for full implementation.
Yeah, that's where my mind's at too.
So if I was him, I would not be afraid to do it. There's going to be jobs for a while.
Yeah.
It's not, because there's still a cost for the truckers, for the trucking companies. And while, yes, the shortage is going to drive that, I think if you're a smaller firm, you can't afford the technology. If you're a larger firm, you can.
Yeah.
No matter where you want to be.
We have come to the end of our show.